Hello, and welcome to Art, Creativity, and Well-Being. This is the show where we're always working to support you in giving as much care and love for yourself as you do for your loved ones and those in your world and those in the world. I am Kay Lock Culp. I am an artist, a coach, a creator, and a thru hiker who used to need a wheelchair. And today I'm so excited because I'm here with my friend, my fellow coach, life coach, Sarah Juniper. Sarah and we're gonna have a bit of a different kind of episode today. We're gonna, we're just gonna bring some questions for each other about our brains. And we're very excited to bring you in on this. And I will say right at the beginning, too, Sarah and I are collaborating on a workshop that is coming up. Maybe workshop is one word, but the word that often comes up with Sarah is roundtable. Um, you facilitate, Sarah, these beautiful, beautiful roundtables where people can just come in and be gently present and curious. And I'm very excited because you and I are collaborating on one that is literally called My Brain and Me. So welcome, welcome, welcome. It's so great to see you, Sarah Juniper.
Thank you so much, Kay, for one, inviting me into this space and just being a fabulous person that I feel so many of our conversations go down these amazing rabbit holes and side quests. So again, as you've already shared to your listeners, let's see where this conversation takes us, especially when it comes to our brains. So
Mhm.
welcome everyone. I'm excited
Mhm.
for it.
Woohoo! So I wonder if you might share like how it first came up, how the idea first sort of crossed your mind to do or to hold space for people, in terms of the brain or our operating systems.
Oh, good question. I don't think anyone outside of family has ever really asked me that question. So thank you.
Mm.
What led me to here? Um, I suppose it goes back to my own schooling and not feeling like I belonged and not really fully being understood my perspective of the world. I always didn't quite understand why things were functioning the way they were, but I embraced that internally. And then by working with young people who I like to say don't fit into the societal box of normal, and just witnessing when you hold a safe space and allowing someone to just be authentically them, like how powerful that arena can be for an individual who has been kind of disregarded or removed from that norm or removed from that box. So I just pure curiosity of one experiencing and then witnessing and someone asking me, "Oh, you should become a therapist." I was like, "Oh, but it seems so heavy to be a therapist.
Mm.
Like it just seems like it's stagnant." You ask me now, therapy is incredibly powerful. And if you have the accessibility, I truly believe if you need it, 100%. But then I had a conversation with a friend who was like, "No, you should become a coach." I was like, "I've never heard of coaching. What, what is this?" They're like, "Life coaching." I was like, "Oh my goodness, this seems a bit woohoo and a bit out there. Let's do it." And the company I went through, it was basically a really deep dive on myself and having to understand my dark and light side. And that was it. I was reading books about my dark and light side. I then did a master's in psychology and it's just spiraled. And now I find myself working with individuals who are very like minded, but giving ourselves permission to be creative with what that looks like. I always say I rebel against structure, insight to my brain. Um, so actually to find myself in a space where I can kind of navigate my own rules and structure and flow is really fun. So I think I've answered your question, but that's kind of led me to where I am today.
Mm. Thank you for that. So deep. And 100%, I think when I was asking you just before we started, like what I don't remember how I asked it, but what you shared was that what a life coach is to me, what I feel like I am now is I'm a facilitator. I'm a space holder. I'm an educator. I'm a being. Like it's
Yeah.
about doing these. It isn't about necessarily, quote, doing. It's really more about knowing yourself. And one of the things that I remember learning when I first started on my coaching, sort of this kind of coaching, because I used to think of a coach as someone who told people what to do, but that didn't work out that well. So, what I understand is, and what I've learned is that the deeper I can go myself to understand myself, and be well within myself, the better I can help people do that for themselves.
Yeah. From that, I'm curious now.
Mm,
Knowing the space that you are in now, physically, in terms of the environment that you live in to where you were,
mm,
has that changed the way you show up as a coach or as a professional for your clients?
mm. Wow, I love the question. And the answer is absolutely yes. So
Yeah.
for newer listeners, I have over the last just over a year, a little over a year, been on a journey of relocating, of literally, upending our lives. It involved This involved our adult children deciding for themselves where they were going to live because they're young adults. So they were 20 and 24 when they moved out of the house last May of the house they'd grown up in. And the layers of that and bringing the intention to where my life partner and I really wanted to live. And then we tried to have as few parameters as possible on what the end result would be. We basically I had made a painting actually of a beautiful Maine lake that we'd stayed on a couple years prior. And every time it used to sort of hang like right there in our old, like just behind me in our old home. And I'd be like, that's where we're going. I don't know what that means, but that's where we're going. And I would say the only part of that that isn't on our property but is so nearby is the lake. We live at the end of a mile-long dirt road, in the middle of these beautiful woods. We live on 25 acres of woods, and expanding, and the house itself is a post and beam. Like it's you couldn't have designed anything better for us. Like we almost felt like we spoke it into the world.
Oh, yeah, that's
And
beautiful.
and we
Yeah.
found it. It was discovered for us by our wonderful realtor who saw it in a Facebook Marketplace posting. And even that, it was so interesting because, after 9 months of reading news, not news, but real estate sort of descriptions, I was so exhausted of the words nurture, not nurture, nestled and tucked. These are words that everybody uses to describe 5 acres in Maine or whatever. And this was the woman who used to own this home gave a Facebook Marketplace posting where she said, "This is the price. This is what it is," with pictures of like what was valuable to her, the wildlife, the
Mhm.
word nestled or tucked were not in there at all. And I remember looking at Ben and being like, "Wow!" And Ben is my life partner, being like, "Wow, this is a special place."
Yeah.
And even then, so many times it was so well. Maybe what I'll say is our Massachusetts realtor who was supporting us to remodel and sell our old home. She, as a realtor, she knew what we were going to be needing to do, right? Which was clean out 20 years of stuff.
Yeah.
It re-envisioning what someone else might want coming into this home.
Mm.
And so saying that and putting that in the background for a moment, what she did for us was she helped us have a real excitement about what we were jumping into. And there's
Yeah.
a saying, I didn't say it. I think it's the guy who wrote the Le Petit Prince, The Little Prince. He has said, if you want to build a boat, do not round up the workers to cut down trees and start sawing and chopping. Instead, teach them to yearn for the vast and endless sea.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what our realtor did for us because we it was so was relatively easy. Even in the toughest moments, I was like, I can do this because I'm going to where I want to be.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it in a way
It's
that I want to be there. So,
yeah, I think that's what's interesting, isn't it? When if we relate it to, say, the field of life coaching, and maybe I'm only just coming to terms with what I understand life coaching to be and the journey it's taken me on is it's that it's the journey, it's the belief, it's the self creation of a and being honest with yourself as to what you truly want.
what do you
Um,
value? Yeah.
and when I think of my journey up to this date, I mean, my goodness, it's a whirlwind in its own right. I think I constantly live on side quests, but actually, when I sit and truly reflect to where I was 6 years ago when I started on this coaching journey to now, actually, I have been doing it, everything, because it's alignment, a bit like the painting you were talking about.
Hmm.
I sat with someone I was training with, and he said, go and paint a picture. And it's a picture of a globe that had the four elements: fire, air, earth, and water.
Hmm.
And in it, there was then a book so that it's around connection and knowledge
Wow.
and I sit there and I'm like, oh, I'm doing that.
Mm.
Like the community, I've got community. So just hearing you and using the paper and actually just trusting that it is coming.
Yeah.
It's not instant. It's not, you're not pressing self destruct to achieve. It is this slow, gradual belief that if you're willing to put one step in front of each other, you can get there. It
Yeah.
just may take you longer than you believe, or not as long,
Yep.
depending
Exactly.
on what you're searching for. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome. And I would be curious because so for me, when you ask, has that helped you like support others? And I would say that it's helped me in more than one way. So first of all, I feel like I can be my full creative self here in a way that I didn't feel. I get such fulfillment from the sky and the stars. And I remember one of the first nights being here where I could see our house is a passive energy house, so it's oriented towards the south. You know, that's where the majority of the windows are, and it's just so fascinating. All these ways that it is like an energy conservative home. Again, like it was it designed for us? I mean, it was built 30 years ago, but it seemed to have been designed for us.
Yeah.
I remember being able to see the full constellation Orion instead of just Orion's Belt, which I'd loved Orion's Belt when I could see that in the suburbs because I live pretty close to Boston, Massachusetts. But to be able to watch Orion walk across the sky every night has
Mm.
been such a joy. And there's been learning for me. Cassiopeia, for example, is in the sky all night. Like it never leaves the sky, which it used to set in Massachusetts, and I'm northerly enough that it doesn't set. And I was like, why is Cassiopeia behaving in this way? You know? And anyway, my capacity to be here is helpful because I think I can be quieter in myself. But the other really interesting part is there have been to get here, we were running and running and running. There were check boxes. There were very often things that might have derailed it that we had to work through. Like it was just go, 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 go. And 2026 feels like I don't have to go anymore. And being here has opened up space not just for good things to come in, but for challenging things to come in. And my personal belief is that challenges you don't learn unless you encounter a challenge, as
I
tricky and right.
yeah.
And so that to be able to like what we were saying before, to be able to have that expansion for myself cannot be but good for the people that I work with because now I have a perspective I didn't have before and
That's
it's very, very
fascinating.
helpful. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. What's coming up for me, hearing you there and travel is my looking up at the stars and seeing the. There was a moment when I was in Australia. I was in the centre, and they have something called a swag. It's like a sleeping bag, but with a mattress in it. Very fascinating experience with a fire going, and I
Mm,
couldn't sleep. And again, the concept of movement when you're not used to seeing it,
mm.
it's oh, we're spinning. We are actually spinning, and you lay there, and the moon moved across the sky,
Mm.
and I was like, wow. And at school, they used to, I don't know if you have ever come across these, there was like a model which would have the sun and the different planets, and you could move it round. And it was like suddenly it was coming to life. And I know that sounds quite
Wow.
naive, but actually to it, because there was no light pollution. And
Mm,
suddenly it made you go, wow, we're a really tiny speck on this humongous universe, like perspective. And I've always traced travel and nature and that kind of raw life. I think the reverse is happening for me now. I used to reject financial freedom, in terms of earn a certain amount so that you have that freedom. I was like, well, no, I'm just going to stay within my means, and then I don't have to chase anything. And for the
mm,
first time, I've desired settling. I've desired to find financial freedom that we hear these professionals talk about,
mm,
so that then travel isn't somewhere I disappear off to. I actually can find my space, and it becomes ingrained in my everyday life rather than it being a big explosive moment to then I have to find a way to be grounded again when I have to do normal. So
mm.
it's very interesting, that
Wow.
that realization, I guess.
Can you, so similar to the question that you asked me, can you see how your growth journey has been helpful for the people that you support?
Yes and no. That's interesting that that's come up.
Mm,
Yes, because I am a big believer that lived experiences, the trials and errors, mean that you can actually share and relate to a client, or that partnership that you contract yourself into. The other side is, and maybe this is imposter syndrome, is that my own fears can sometimes get in the way of, or can come across as being a little bit, oh, you can go and do that, but I can't relate to it. Does that make sense? So although it's an internal barrier that I put up because I believe I'm everyone's biggest cheerleader
hmm
of go for it, but I think internally it's like, well, if you haven't tried something, if you haven't taken that risk, where do you sit in telling someone else to go ahead and do it? And
mm,
but that's something that I'm doing some deep learning on at the moment, and trying to navigate, well, what's the big step or the risk that I'm not taking? What am I holding back on? Because again, there's a lesson in everything, and you said that earlier, and I suppose I'm constantly searching, but conversations and reflection have enabled me to see that I have taken those big leaps. So I suppose it's that ownership of how far I've come,
mm.
um, even in the last 12 months, so it's interesting.
It feels like your spirit of adventure is would be so mm, engaging or stimulating for the people that you work with. For you to be able to say, well, here's what I'm working on right now. I mean, that we can feel like that turns somebody off, but really I think it just illustrates our humanity
Yeah,
and gives someone else permission to feel humanity too, for
yeah, I,
themselves.
I totally I totally agree. It's that kind of, come on, just give yourself a break, isn't it? And I think that's always, it's a good voice to have in your head, someone going, "Mm, you can't do that, mm, go on," and then it's a bit like, go on. And that, my personality is like, all right, you're being told you can't, go on, prove yourself that you can. And I think I've started to play around with that. That's definitely changed. 2026, what's it bringing? It's that giving myself permission to be playful even in my professional world.
Mm.
Um, Allow the bits that make me shine really bright personally. It's like, oh, you can let that come in. That will show up however it's supposed to in your professional world. So, hey, maybe we can have a conversation in 12 months' time. We'll see what playfulness has come, how it's been formed over the next 12
Mm.
months. So,
Oh, I love that. Ooh, ooh,
mm,
ooh. Well, um, we've been, it's been so fun to collaborate on this roundtable that we will be facilitating in a couple weeks. So this is coming out, this episode will be out on Tuesday, the 17th of February, and the actual roundtable is on the 28th of February. So if you're hearing it, relatively in real time, there's a link in the show notes. You'll be able to see if it's something that feels like it would be fun for you to kind of dive in on. Um, I have been playing with I've been making something that will be available for the participants, an owner's manual, an operating manual for our brain. And Sarah has graciously allowed me to bring a couple of questions to her that she hasn't even seen yet because because that's the spirit of adventure, right? And then
absolutely.
with the idea that I'd like to bring our curiosity to a couple of these, but then I will be so curious for you, Sarah, like if there are things that you want to sort of ask me about my brain or whatever. So, um,
Absolutely.
does it feel
Okay.
like a good
Let's
time to
jump
hop in?
into it. Let's
Woo!
see. Like I said to you, I will the questions will come up. So I'm excited to see what journey we're about to go on and
Mm,
how it
mm.
unfolds.
Well, it's interesting because this is something I've actually used in my coaching. Uh, because it started out because people would say things like this is what I really want to be doing, but sometimes if I do too much of it, I'll get exhausted, for example. And so I started thinking about like, well, if you buy a new blender, there's a whole operating manual that comes with that. And the first thing it says is warning, caution. So um so so that's how this got started. And I think what I would love to hear, Sarah, from you is like what were the factory settings for your brain? What were the original system settings that your brain arrived with on this earth?
Wow, what a question. So if I put it as the thing that's coming up for me right now, undiagnosed dyslexia.
Mm,
Um, Something my parents fought for years. And as I got older, I resisted anyone to do any tests on me. So I think to understand me is and my brain is to understand that there was a lot of resistance um, around really understanding how my brain works and how that actually it's a strength and there's amazing functions with the way I see the world. But as little me, it was don't worry about that. A label's just going to be trouble. Let me just struggle with school and the rest will work itself out. So there's a flippant stubbornness that my brain holds. And I think from as far as I can remember, yeah, it's I used to hold my breath if I was put on the spot. So how I've interpreted your question, I would say that there's flippancy, stubbornness, and a lot of determination, but anxiety that also played a big
mm.
part in that.
Wow, thank you. That's a deep answer. That's a deep
Yeah,
like
and deep.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm,
it feels like because each of those, I feel like obstinacy is a judged characteristic, but
mhm.
for someone to stand to their principles, for someone to stay steady with their beliefs is
Yeah.
is also quote obstinacy, right?
Oh, it is, because the consequences of, whether it was fear, whether it was fear of rejection or not understanding, again, it comes back to knowledge. I am a big believer that knowledge is power. Knowledge of yourself, knowledge of others and your surroundings. It's something that I constantly preach. And I think as a child, it's not that I wasn't given the knowledge of what was going on. It was more maybe not how I felt I could access it.
Mm,
And so then that lack of knowledge and understanding built up walls of protection.
mm,
Because what happens if I was weird or odd? And school is known to be very traumatic for a lot of individuals. And I think if people ask where it stems from with me, it's down to the teachers saying, I wouldn't achieve, that I'm not good enough for. I was the stereotype of the girls in my school, so we all got blanketed with the same punishment. It was, yeah, it's interesting.
mm,
Interesting learning about it. And now my story is so different. I'm very grateful for little me, but it's taken a long time to love that system that was first around.
Thank you. Um, there's a couple more that I'm wanting
Okay.
to ask, but I'm so curious, like what if we bounce back and forth? So you get to
Mhm.
ask me something now, if
Yeah,
if you'd like
yeah.
to.
So my question, I suppose, for you, I suppose it does come down to the neurodivergent element
Mm,
of our brains. I know that we are fellow NDs, if you want to say that,
mhm.
whether we want to openly discuss that now. But would you say, by coming to understand your different wiring, or being on the journey of being able to put a label on that difference, has been an easy journey to go on?
Oh, wow. What a great question. I mean, no. So the short answer is absolutely, it has not been a quote easy journey. But it was much harder to stay in denial, to stay sad, to stay disempowered than it has been to say, well, maybe there's a resonance here that I need to be seeing.
Mhm.
And I can remember going from sort of like, well, maybe there's some ADHD in my background somewhere,
Mhm.
um, to when our and I've been given permission to speak about this on the show. When our son turned 18, he became curious for himself. Do I have ADHD? Because I, as a teacher, especially, I'd always been very. I would like to know the child for themselves rather than know their diagnosis because the feeling that I have is a diagnosis might entrap me to think about them a certain way, and I didn't want that, right? So we homeschooled our kids from the time our oldest was 7, and what that meant was that if they were curious about something for themselves, great, but I wasn't going to put them in any box, right? That was how I felt, and so our son decided to see for himself when he turned 18, do I have ADHD? And lo and behold, he did.
Mhm.
And a friend of mine is a very wonderful, nationally recognized, nationally lauded author and licensed mental health counselor, speaker who facilitates like coping skills for kids and actually coping skills for all people. Now she's got a variety of ways of doing that. And she suggested that I watch a movie called The Disruptors, which is a
Mhm.
documentary, um, and it's people with ADHD speaking what they're doing is they're following several families who are trying to like get their kids to go to school and come out from under the bed and it showed me that I'd never seen this before. There was that one of the themes in the movie was girls have ADHD. It presents very differently than boys. And because a boy in our society is conditioned to stand up and say, well, F you. No. Like, ah. right. Girls are conditioned to be very demure, to turn it
Yeah.
all inward. So I used to get in trouble for like chewing my hair and because I was trying to do something fiddly, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so here was an illustration and an absolute giant arrows pointing in the direction of you, Kay, have ADHD. I was like, there's
Yeah.
no way I don't have it. And that and it's I remember crawling into my husband's lap and saying, I wish I could have been normal for you.
Yeah.
And he
Wow.
said, this was like 4 years ago. And
Yeah.
he said, I wouldn't have wanted you if you were normal. He goes, I want you. And then he said, and what's normal anyway? And
Mm.
so I started to, and this movie was really helpful in this. I started to think about, okay, so deficit and disorder are the two things that really bug me about that used to really trigger me about this. I can remember I remember one time I was like, well, I'll just do some dancing because dancing is really helpful, right? Hyperactivity.
Yeah.
It helps me settle down or whatever. And I couldn't dance because in my head I was hearing 14-year-old me going, "Oh, you have to dance because of your ADHD." Like it was so
Mhm.
right? It was
It's
so
crazy
punitive.
what we tell ourselves
Yeah.
and the stories we create.
And so what I did was I was like, okay, if those are the words that are bugging me, I'll just make up new words. So I call it, I think of what I have as creative energetic curiosity syndrome.
Love that.
And it's
Mm.
like, yes, we can be. In fact, there's a doctor in the movie whose name I'm totally forgetting. Um, but he's interviewed quite a bit. He's wonder. He's got a wonderful podcast. It's his podcast is called, I believe he calls it TED Talks because his first name is Ted. I think. Oh, no, it's Ned. It's Ned Talks because his first name is Ned.
Love that.
And he's like, curiosity is sometimes, people get in trouble. They get in trouble for being too curious, but sometimes they discover penicillin. Like
Yeah.
it is just it's simply once I got to the point where I could realize it's simply an operating system. It's like
Yeah.
this is the characteristics of my nervous system,
Mm.
and I don't have to judge it, and I don't have to accept other judgments on it, you know?
That's so beautiful, and I very much align with your thinking there. And thank you for sharing because I have been in denial with the whole concept of dyslexia. I've known, like it's very obvious in certain scenarios. Again, I think I was sharing before we press record that I kind of reject any kind of structure or
Hmm.
anything like that. And it's all part of my dyslexia. And I'm like, no, 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 I've got structure, but it really flows. And if you saw my papers that I have by my side, it's like a big, colourful explosion all of the
Mm.
time. But um, Richard Branson actually has a free university course. There's 3 on there, I think it is. And I sat and did one. I think it was August last year. I was like, I'm just really curious. What is it? And it's a couple of questions. And he was talking, and he was able to tell me that it is literally the space between. I call them pillars. I don't actually know the scientific biological words. And he goes, it's the speed that the messages fire. That's dyslexia.
Wow.
And it's now a whole phrase of dyslexic thinking, and it's something that companies are now going out and physically searching for. And I just remember going, "Yay! I finally have a skill that I don't have to train for. It's just natural." And
Yeah.
it was just something like an understanding and kind of catching on what you were saying there. It's you're not doing it for, I suppose, give yourself permission to be curious for your own sake, for your own mental health, I guess, rather than doing it because you feel you have to. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge
S-
conversation, and I know
s-
that's not today's space, but
Oh, I love
yeah,
it. I think it's the difference between realizing for myself that I could be
mm,
curious about this, because originally, if you remember, I watched it, quote, in support of my son.
yeah,
And I couldn't not see it that I
yeah,
had it. I couldn't, like, it was so obvious. I remember,
mm,
I remember talking to the doctors because then I was curious what if my doctor would, if it would be a diagnosis that she would she would diagnose me with. And we ended up having a conversation about, and she was like, well, yes, first of all, yes, absolutely. But she was curious about family, what the family dynamics were, not so much about like, do you know, do you know of family members with ADHD, which yes, many. And but she was more like, what did you do? What did you do as a kid? Because for me, I would never have said that I had a deficit or a disorder. What we did was we skied together. Like we cooked, we sang, we just
Sounds like
were,
my life.
yeah, exactly. Like and sometimes we sat quietly and did homework or whatever, but we fully dove into projects. And the only time that I've ever seen any, like for example, my folks or my relatives getting derailed of whatever age they are, whether they're my nephews or my grandparents or my kids or whatever, was when they would feel a judgment on them. So I think that's really what for me what keeps coming back is once I was comfortable in myself,
Mm.
and that took some doing, but I couldn't not. I once I like it's this idea of when you know better, you do better, and I just couldn't blame myself anymore for my own factory settings. I just couldn't.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, I think again, whether we lead with curiosity to develop our knowledge, I think the two are very powerful when you build on both or lead with both of those.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Same, same. Woo. All right. Well, I
Mm.
think we probably have time for one more question each,
Okay,
if that works for
let's
you.
do
Okay.
it.
Um, what is your brain's optimal operating environment?
Oh, what is my brain's optimal working environment,
Mm,
would you say? Okay. Um, actually, this is me. It really depends on the day.
hmm
Um, I suppose if I was to summarize my day, I need flexibility, fresh air, um, some element of contact with others, but I can either get really high energy by being around other people, but there's normally a consequence of being around people too much.
mm,
So I have to be quite careful with how I manage my day and how much contact I have with other humans,
hmm
because otherwise every schedule goes out the window because I love just the buzz that I get from connecting face to face with individuals. So fresh air is optimal. Um, Probably a clean and very tidy space. Everything has to have its kind of place.
hmm
Um, and I feel it if someone's been in there without my permission. I can sense it.
hmm
So I don't know if I'm answering your questions. I think I'm just going off on a little tangent, but nature. I've got plants dotted around everywhere. I
hmm
have a travel poster behind me to tell me that the reason I'm working hard is so that I can go and explore the world and connect with different environments. So, have I answered?
I think so. It sounds, if I can reflect back, it
Please
sounds
do.
to me like what your optimal working environment or optimal operating environment is fresh air, nature outside, that atmosphere. And um, it almost sounds like ambivert to me. So right in the middle of extroverted, which is sort of getting your energy from being with people, being out and about, and introverted, which is sort of getting your energy from quiet and being nestled. Um,
Yeah, and it's only I lived in the north of England not quite a couple of years ago,
mhm,
and it's only when I went on this self-employment journey that I realized the intensity and how much my energy levels shoot through the roof. And I
mhm,
started tuning into like, whoa, okay, you need to just kind of understand why you're showing up, what's the environments, because I got so obsessed with networking. I wasn't actually doing any work, and it became just an opportunity to be social and genuinely connect. So that kind of triggered this whole journey of, right, well, if you're going to be self-employed, you do actually need to have purpose when you're going to these things, not just to give people your time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know that sounds really strange. And then I started tuning into how different friendship groups were going, oh, wow, when you walk through the door, you have this energy. We just know you're in the room. And I was
Mm,
like, oh, right, okay, is this the type of energy I want to be giving out all of the time? How can I nurture it for my own well-being? So
yeah.
yeah, ambivert, did you say?
Yeah.
I like
Ambivertedness
that.
is, yeah.
Mm,
When I first learned the term, it gave me, and I learned it taking a personality test, the one that the Myers-Briggs.
yeah.
And I think it goes, I don't know, 25 points out towards extreme extrovert, 25 points out towards extreme introvert, and I was a one extrovert.
Wow.
And I was
Yeah.
like, wow, I guess I really like, and I started to be able to see that's a again a factory setting for me. That's, so it sounds like for you, optimal operating environments are changeable. Like
Have to be.
sometimes
Yeah.
it's one and sometimes it's another,
Mm.
and that's great. It's so good to know.
Yeah. I
Right?
think if anyone looked at my month schedule, what's getting me excited at the moment is no day's the same. And
Mm,
there's a lot of boxes, so to say, being ticked in terms of why I've decided to go on this journey. And it's that complete flexibility of, well, I might not take my weekend on a Saturday and Sunday because actually that doesn't benefit what I actually want to do in my personal life. And I'm just, my calendar's really colourful. It's beautiful. And suddenly I'm like, yes,
mm,
this is what it means to be my own boss. Complete freedom and flexibility, I guess. Mm.
wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. My question is, if you were to choose to benefit your mind, for you to feel like your mind and body and soul are in full alignment, what would be your perfect environment?
Mm,
So I suppose it's the same kind of question to yours, but I think where my head is going is, where do you feel most alive and the most K?
wow. What I love about it is it's it's such an open question, and yet it's focused, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I would say that the the cultivation of this has been the journey, and I would even continues to be the journey because it's changeable, just like ambivertedness, right?
Hmm.
Um, Definitely nature,
Yeah.
100%. If I don't get time outside, I'm just a sad, sad person. Like it just, I just am not as happy. So, which is interesting because sometimes my brain will try to talk me out of that, you know? And, but so that's one aspect of it for sure. The permission that I have given myself to be a creative interpreter of what I see and experience. So I love making art because it's the way that I make it. So in a few weeks, we will hear from a wonderful historian, a historian of ancient scientists
Oh, wow.
named Alnor Danani. He's just such a cool guy. And a lot of what we talk about is the different human ways of being creative of all things. Because if you're studying the ancients, you're not just looking at one society. You're seeing how different societies connected and communicated. And I remember showing him a painting that I had made. And my one of the things that I enjoy being an artist is it was important to me to get to be able to illustrate perspective really well, like atmospheric perspective, buildings, flowers, people, whatever, like to show roundedness, to show shadow, to show the sky as it really looks, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, "That's great, and it's one kind of art, and there are so many other kinds." And which I marvel at knowing. I loved that he just expanded my brain, right?
Yeah.
With that statement, and the reason it's coming up is because it's helped me understand why I love making the kind of art that I love, or not why necessarily, but like that I love making the kind of art that I make.
Yeah.
And so, feeling free to be fully me is that as well. It's being able to, and the paintings I've made here since we've moved have been, I have been even thinking of them as so fully me. They're it's nature interpreted. I've only really done I haven't done any sort of portraiture since I've been here. So I think about like, but it's things interpreted through my lens. And I once had a colleague say, I feel like I'm looking at that, I'm seeing that through your eyes. And it's like, that's a what a compliment, you know? Um,
Oh, powerful. Because
yeah,
actually, just to jump in a little bit there, I think when I reflect on our conversation so far, it's that the spaces we hold is giving people permission to see life through their own lenses and to feel free in doing so,
yeah,
right? And you've
yeah.
just beautifully said that through your art, and that your those that sit and see it as a complete picture are able to go, wow, we're seeing the environment that you're painting through your eyes right now. And that's
Mm.
what a transaction. That's
Right.
powerful.
Thank you. I walk around here singing at the top of my lungs because there's no one to hear, right? It's just me. I'm not in a neighborhood anymore where people might not want to hear Uptown Funk or or Van Morrison or whatever. Um, and it's so fun. Like, so I think giving myself permission to fully be me is really embracing all the different parts of me, but as a whole, I don't know, there's a
Yeah.
synthesis to it.
Mm.
Um, it's taken some doing to get here. And I think every day there are things that would attempt to remove me from it, say, or like a term that's come to mind recently has been survivor's guilt. Because who am I to live where I want to live when there are people suffering in the world, or who am I to have a, I don't know, a great relationship or a whatever, like anything you can think of, right? When there are people who don't have that. And it's been such a good invitation to really understand what's most important to me, and then to be able to give myself the grace to work towards it or to rest or to
Mhm.
and that I think the other important part of it is it's how I can help others facilitate that for themselves,
Yeah.
and it's how I can love others non-judgmentally.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think judgment's a heavy burden for the holder
Mm,
and those that receive it. And it's a heavy chain, isn't it? But I think if you can go on the journey of understanding you, led by curiosity, and be open to building that knowledge, then actually judgment loses its power. Um, and it's really refreshing when you can walk. Yes, don't get me wrong. There's challenges that come up every day, but actually, if you can walk through life, softening that burden of judgment on yourself or others or your surroundings, it's a nice feeling when you get it, even if
mm,
it's just a little insight every now and then.
mm. Wow.
Yeah,
Well, that's on that beautiful notion. Our time is our time has
that's
come quickly to a close.
you see, it's
Yeah.
already up. Like time flies. I feel like every time we talk, it's suddenly like the hour just disappears. So
Mm,
just
yeah.
thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for being here so fully. Um, it's a gift. You're a gift for
Thank you.
sure.
Straight back at you. We hold a beautiful space. I've said it from day one. I think when it comes to us just connecting, the fact that we're different parts of the world,
Yep.
it's magical,
Yep.
magical. And
Truly.
that's what it's about.
Uh, if you are listening and you would like to get in touch with Sarah, I am including her LinkedIn in the notes, LinkedIn profile. So that's where Sarah's asked that you get in touch with her. Over there, she's Sarah Jane Juniper. So just so you know, what you're who you're finding, or what that name looks like over there. And if you'd like to be part of our roundtable, the information is in the show notes for that as well. Um, yeah, I mean, Sarah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me into your space and going on the exploration that we've been on. So, and thank you to everyone who takes the time to listen and connect. Just say hi and let me know where you've heard from me.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. Thank you very much. I think we're wrapping up. We will see you next time, and we're glad that you're here, both Sarah and all of the folks listening and watching. Great to see you.
Yeah.